welcome to Hidden Stories Healed Now. We are in for a great show today. You know, one of the most important things we talk about is our health. And we know that there's some times that challenges are brought to us. We wake up and we find out we're ill. And other times we make choices that make us ill. And we're going to hear some very interesting stories today that I hope that you will take to heart, to understand that when you let those hidden stories out, you really are letting yourself have freedom when you're healing. So I am so fortunate to have with me today two wonderful women that I adore because I happen to know them personally. I'd like to welcome Jennifer Long, who is voiceover talent and our 104.1 radio personality. And you have to listen. She's absolutely phenomenal. I love to listen to her in the Atlanta market. And I also have with me Alicia Newton, who is the Chief Encourager at Learning Path, LLC. So welcome. Thank you for joining me and spending some time with us today.
Sure.
So, Jennifer, I'd like to start with you.
Okay.
So I'd love for you to share with our audience today your health experience and challenge.
Sure. So I don't consider it a challenge now, but in 2008, I after I had my second child, maybe 90 days, she was just a wee baby, and I was going to a party and discovered that I had like this really high temperature, and for some reason I had been feeling really tired over the course of a couple of weeks, and so something just alarmed me enough to consider going to the emergency room, which I did. My temperature was like 104, was something crazy. And so, long story short, I discovered that I had an acute form of leukemia, and basically it was they maybe thought I had days, like literally, from the moment that they discovered that it was a particular form of leukemia. And so I literally went into the hospital and was in the hospital for 30 days. And it was one of those moments where you really appreciate making sure that you touch and say goodbye to everybody in your family, even when you're just thinking you're doing something routine, like always kiss and hug, And so that's what happened. But I am cured. It is actually it was a curable form of leukemia, which was extraordinary. And so that was, 12 years ago. And I share this with you. I don't normally share that story, but I'm happy to share that story because it is really about the power of God and really positive thinking, quite frankly. So,
well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I know that that was a time in your life where there were things that you grew from that journey, and things have changed. And we'll talk a little bit about that a little bit.
Yeah.
So when we look at your time in that 30 days, and we think about day in and day out, talk to us a little bit about the things that you experienced.
Yeah, so it was very emotional because I had just had my second child, and I couldn't breastfeed, I couldn't hold her, I couldn't be with her, and people also weren't they were really focused on the medicine and not the power of God. And so unfortunately, the energy around me was that it was the end, and that I was not going to make it. And I didn't believe that. I had been given a different promise, and I wanted people around me and energy around me that helped me sort of rest in that. And so I have an extraordinary family. At the time, he is now my ex-husband, but my husband at the time was extraordinary and very supportive, and we really had a village come in and literally surround our family and help us fight. And we did. And we just, I tell the story that I literally put a sign on my hospital room door that said, do not enter without my permission. And really, it was to make sure that, my mental energy and my emotional energy was focused on thriving and getting healthy. And, to me, it is about your mind and what you think. And so yeah, that's that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. It's interesting, the power of the mind, the power of healing, the power of the saying that, there's no one stronger than my God.
Yep.
And being able to get through those moments. And I know that not being able to be with your daughter was very hard and very difficult. Are there any things that you can share with us that you did to help you deal day to day, knowing that you couldn't be with your babies?
Yeah, so I love music, and I found music to be like this extraordinary healer. I love reading. I still was able to, see them. FaceTime was kind of like, we were using it, but not as frequently. So I was still able to talk to them. I also have a son who at the time was 2. And so I had young children, but yeah, I really, I meditated a lot. I journaled a lot. I wrote down my, what I was thinking, and things that were opposite of what I believed. I didn't even write them, actually. I just, tried to come up with other things to think about that would put me in a different space. And I'm not suggesting that there weren't those moments where I felt, like, why is this happening? Like, why is this happening to me? And why is this happening to our family? But I think ultimately it was just about staying focused, really. And music did that, and reading did that. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to ask Alicia about her experiences and the things that she went through on her health journey. We'll be right back.
Every story has a hidden element that is not often shared. Hidden Stories, Healed Now, with host Vicki Wright-Hamilton, seeks to share the hidden gems in real-life experiences. Our guests are ordinary people sharing their stories of overcoming insurmountable odds while providing hope and inspiration.
When we think about Hidden Stories, Healed Now, one of the things that is very obvious is that all of us have a journey. Everybody has challenges, trials, and tribulations. Whatever it is that you are experiencing, whatever challenge that may be, whatever hardship that you've gone through, those things that we keep in the closet that we never talk about, those hidden things keep us from being healed. We need to talk about them, even if it's with a trusted confidant. You need to deal with them, because what happens is that they stay with you anyway. It can affect your ability to move forward in any capacity in life. It can have impacts on your health. So one of the things that I always say, let the stories go. Let the emotions out. Let the conversations begin so that you can become healed, so that you can move forward. All you really want is that freedom, the freedom of not holding it back anymore, the freedom of not feeling it in the pit of your stomach, the freedom of not saying that, oh my gosh, I'm embarrassed. See, that's why we keep things in the closet. We either are embarrassed, we don't want anybody to know, it makes us feel bad, and no one wants to hurt. No one wants to be in pain. So talk about it. Find that thought partner, that confidant, that therapist, that person that allows you to be you and accepts you for who you are. So heal yourself by letting the things out. Welcome back. So let's take an opportunity to talk to Alicia Newton. So welcome again. Glad to have you here. So I'd love to, for the audience to understand a little bit about your journey.
So on October the 14th, 1998, I had hit a bottom with drugs and alcohol and became willing to join a recovery program and do the work that I needed to free myself. And on that journey, I got introduced to myself. Not the self that I had made up at 10, that I wasn't enough, that I had to do something to be loved, to be accepted, to be enough. You know, I was able to go back to that little girl and give her a hug and let her know that God makes no junk. And my worthiness is not predicated on anything other than I am here in this moment. And so, you know, it's been amazing. I've learned that I've learned how to open my gifts. You know, we all have a set of gifts that the world needs. If everybody would open their gifts and give the world what we've been blessed to give the world, I think a lot of the things that we see today would not be happening. But I have no control over that. What I have control over is what I do. And that's predicated. You spoke to it a little bit about boundaries. What do you let into your space and what do you say, oh no, no. But in my book of affirmations, I write that our story is our roadmap to our intention. Mm-hmm. And it's only when we're still enough to look at our choices, our patterns, our thoughts, our emotions, our behaviors. I didn't believe at one time that I could survive emotion. You know, when COVID came and everything was shut down, fortunately, I had had enough time of introspection and prayer and meditation and self-reflection that I was all right being with myself. In addiction, I could never be by myself. I was always moving. The spirit I serve speaks to me in a quiet voice. Get quiet. Mm-hmm. Get quiet.
You know, that's really interesting. And I'd like to pull back a little bit on that because that's part of, you know, the journey we talk about when we talk about our health. What did you learn that was the cause of what forced you to go to addiction in the first place?
Well, I believe addiction is a disease. And it's not so much about the substance, because you can be addicted to anything, work, gambling, the house has to be perfect. It's about obsession, whatever I'm obsessing about. For me, I believe it was rooted in, I grew up in a time when all of the neighbors were, you know, married and there was, you know, daddy, mama, child, right? I lived with older, my great aunt, and I was different. And so I felt different. And the fact that, you know, at that time, my mother had moved to New York, I lived in this town, and I made up a story, you know, and I made up a story that I needed to do something to be enough. And I think it was that hustling for self-worth that drove me into, you know, just using drugs and alcohol to just, you know, fit in. And initially it was to fit in because my mother was strict. I did move with her finally when I was 10 and she was strict. She was like, you can't go here, you can't go there. And all the people in Harlem at that time, you know, they looked like they didn't have any rules. They could just do what they wanted to do. And I was rebellious, okay? So the process has helped me focus that rebellion into service to humanity. So,
you know, it's interesting because, you know, a lot of us, you know, who have children or who have raised children, going through that challenge, you know, of what that looks like, right? And how do you deal with rebellion and how do you reinforce the right things to do? So that they make the right choices. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to further our conversation as we talk about health challenges and journeys and overcoming them so that they aren't a challenge anymore. We'll be right back.
Every story has a hidden element that is not often shared. Hidden Stories, Healed Now with host Vicki Wright-Hamilton seeks to share the hidden gems in real-life experiences. Our guests are ordinary people sharing their stories of overcoming insurmountable odds while providing hope and inspiration.
When we think about hidden stories healed now, one of the things that is very obvious is that all of us have a journey. Everybody has challenges, trials, and tribulations. Whatever it is that you are experiencing, whatever challenge that may be, whatever hardship that you've gone through, those things that we keep in the closet that we never talk about, those hidden things keep us from being healed. We need to talk about them, even if it's with a trusted confidant. You need to deal with them because what happens is that they stay with you anyway. It can affect your ability to move forward in any capacity in life. It can have impacts on your health. So one of the things that I always say, let the stories go. Let the emotions out. Let the conversations begin so that you can become healed, so that you can move forward. All you really want is that freedom, the freedom of not holding it back anymore, the freedom of not feeling it in the pit of your stomach, the freedom of not saying that, oh my gosh, I'm embarrassed. See, that's why we keep things in the closet. We either are embarrassed, we don't want anybody to know, it makes us feel bad, and no one wants to hurt. No one wants to be in pain. So talk about it. Find that thought partner, that confidant, that therapist, that person that allows you to be you and accepts you for who you are. So heal yourself by letting the things out. Welcome back. Jennifer, I want to talk to you a little bit about your new habits.
Mm-hmm.
So you went through this journey.
Yes.
You talk about, I admire the positiveness. I admire the fact that you found ways to get through it as you were in the moment, right? Yeah. And that you're living in the moment today. Mm-hmm. Can you share with us some of the things that you did once you got back home in order to keep that energy in terms of being on that journey?
Yes. So my time there, I really meditated on feeling guided. Like I really do believe that I am being guided and that I am here for a purpose. And my part of that was part of my purpose, right? And so I was even more present with my children, even more present with my husband at the time, and more focused on health, and not just health physically, but like health mentally, right? And being able to sort of instill those same things that I learned through that journey, instill those in my children as well. And so what that looked like is, a lot of outdoor time, because you really, feel the presence of God in nature. I do. And so we spend a lot of time outside, spending time alone, reading certain kinds of things. And really my message to them has always been, think about what you put into your mind. It's kind of like food, right? If you put junk food in, that is how you're going to feel, and that's what's going to come out. And the same thing is true for like the good things that you put into your mind. And so I would say that's probably the biggest thing. And everything now, I am in the moment. Like literally, when just anything somebody asks me to do, even if I feel afraid or fearful, I still feel guided, and I'm just going to do it, because I feel like life it gave me a greater sense of the value of life and how important it is to be in the moment, really be in the moment. So
phenomenal. That's just phenomenal. It gives me goosebumps because it gives me energy to feel that positiveness and that, I can be in the moment, because I'm one that suffers from, it's hard to be in the moment when so many things are going on around me. Yeah. But taking that time to be centered and getting more into meditation to try to change that, especially when you're pulled on in so many different directions all at one time. Yeah. So Alicia, with your journey,
Yes.
You know, it's been a long time. Congratulations on your celibacy and making that, making it through all of that during that time period. But I really want to concentrate on what you're doing now. How did you take what you learned and make it a positive experience for you going through today, even in your business?
Yes. That's a great question. Because there's a lot of things, you know. For me, it's about authenticity, and as a leadership development trainer and coach, and the business that I'm in, helping people have the courage to show up as their authentic selves, and also encouraging people to have a tribe. You know, have at least somebody that you tell the whole truth to. Because I think we live in a society that pushes it's almost like a neurotic independence when we're social beings. And problems aren't solved on the same level that they're created. And so we need people that we can trust and that we can process things through, right? And then have those tools in your tool belt. So yes, prayer and meditation and being very clear about boundaries, what you'll let in. Like, I can't even watch too much news. I don't even watch the news. Matter of fact, tweet me just like the overview, because I can't receive that. And so that's important. It's important what you let in. It's important who you let in. But it's important to let somebody in.
Well, congratulations on that sobriety. I'm just so proud of you.
An amazing journey.
And
Every
the
day.
positive things that you've done and how you've even used that to elevate your business. So we are going to give an opportunity to our audience to ask a few questions.
So first, thank you for allowing me to ask a question. My question for you is, as you talked about your leukemia journey, can you share with us any experiences that you had where you felt like you were treated differently as a Black woman or a woman of color? As you know, sometimes we have those issues where doctors may not believe us, or we seem like we have to constantly advocate for care.
That is an awesome question. In the beginning of my journey, I did observe that there were definitely some dynamics that were happening that certainly made me be more mindful of how, one, I was communicating and how my ex-husband at the time was communicating. And one of the interesting things about our journey through that experience is we happen to have a number of friends and family members that actually are medical professionals. And so they were very impactful in making sure that that was a smooth journey for us. And that's not the case for everybody. But they certainly hopped right on in there to make sure that, there were things put in place to be helpful to the healing process. And then I will also say that even the medical professionals that were there, I felt like there was just angels, that were like really giving us information, telling us about things that, are sort of nuances of the medical system that you may or may not even know, and so I feel very lucky in that way to have had that kind of experience. I can't say that it's the same for everyone, but it certainly, and it wasn't always easy. I'm not going to also say that, but certainly it was helpful.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Well, let's tune in for the next episode of Hidden Stories Healed Now. Look forward to seeing you next week. And remember, every time you release a hidden story, you free yourself. See you next week.